Since this video is so highly requested and since the Trios event is around the corner at the time of this recording, I've decided to make this video really in-depth, detailed, and special for those who are really trying to play this game competitively. This video is going to be discussing how to get more arena points and perform better overall in competitive Fortnite. I brought along a special guest in today's video, and this special guest is a member of Erupt, one of the most successful teams that are on the rise in both the content and competitive scene of Fortnite. He goes by the name of Carters, and he was kind enough to sit down with me to do an interview about his success in World Cup Online Opens. Because of his success, I'm going to be bringing him on and asking some of the most commented questions that I get from you guys about competitive play. We'll discuss more about him as well as what he has to say about becoming a successful competitive player in the beginning of the video. The layout of the video is the following. We'll start off with the interview and then add some of my best tips to the very end of the video. Comment down below and tell me how many arena points you have, and let's get right into the video. Alright guys, I'm here with Erupt Carters, and this man is an absolute animal in arena and was able to take home $900 in prize money from the World Cup. He qualified for the finals 5 separate times. That's actually insane to think that he made it to the finals that much. I know some pro level players who didn't actually make it to the finals at all, so shout out to him for that, and of course congratulations Carters. I'm going to be interviewing him and asking some of the most commented questions about arena mode. I thought it'd be really cool to have him here because he's so successful in the competitive scene. So we're gonna start off with question 1, Carters. How often do you practice arena?
Yeah, so recently I haven't been playing a ton of arena since the next tournament coming up is trios. I've been playing like Atlantis trio customs and stuff like that to get ready, but most of the time I'll play arena a few days before a tournament to practice and get used to playing end games. But I just wish they would add an arena trios so I could practice more, but it's alright.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for trios, definitely. This game is like full of opportunities just for everybody to advance their careers, and I'm sure that, you know, that'll be pretty cool for everybody to actually be able to play trios. I'm excited for it because I know there's a lot of really good trios. Like Mongrel and his trio, I feel like are just going to annihilate everybody, if I'm being completely honest with you, but we'll see how that goes. But my second question for you is, what do you practice in arena when you do play?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 really important things that you can work on in arena. One being your end game, which is when the safe zone starts to get very small, like the 5th zone and on. For end game, I would say tunneling and turtling would be the 2 most important things. And if you don't know what those are, I'll explain myself. So turtling is when the zone is starting to get small and you shouldn't be wildly running around the circle. You should find a safe spot in the safe zone and build a box around yourself. Always build the box out of metal since it will keep you the most protected. If you don't have metal, then you can build it out of brick, and if you don't have any brick, build it out of wood. Just make sure you're protected. Knowing when and where to turtle can be very important. It can keep you safe when getting to the end game. Another very important thing to work on would be knowing when to rotate. Knowing when and where to rotate might be the best skill to have, and if you don't believe me, look at Ghost Bizzle for example. Multiple times in the World Cup qualifiers, Bizzle used absolutely no guns and still qualified for Sunday. Bizzle only used movement and utility items, which goes to show how important knowing when and where to rotate can be, because if someone would have seen Bizzle running around and targeting him, he would have been toast. But he knows how to stay away from other players until the end game. And the last thing I think you can work on is early game fights. If you're landing and your spot is contested, winning those fights can be huge, and early game fights have the most RNG involved. You don't know what weapons you'll be getting from chests, how many people will land there with you, where they'll land, what loot they'll get, and even if they'll land before you or not. And if you can get consistent with early game fights, your skill as a player will increase tremendously. Plus, winning those early game fights gives you a sort of confidence boost since you start off the game with an early kill, which means early points as well.
So is it more like end game, early game, like mid game, like where you like make your money? Like how do you go about getting more points in arena? Because I get a lot of comments that say, Verbus, I'm right under 300 points. I just can't get above 300, or I'm losing a lot of points too. So how do you actually go about getting more points in arena?
Yeah, so in this state of Fortnite, ballers are probably your best friend. They add an extra shield of protection. You can get around the map and loot faster. You can run from the storm, and you don't have to waste materials. So I would say that you should abuse the baller since it's so powerful. Like for example, in the World Cup, me and my duo partner would land at the baller spawn on the west of Happy Hamlet, and we would continue west and loot all of the small shacks in the bottom left corner of the map, which would guarantee us ballers and weapons, and we were barely contested, so it was very safe.
All right. So, what could be like a mistake, like a really big mistake that players are making in arena that loses them points?
I feel like something that loses a lot of players' points is landing at the big name areas of the map, like Pleasant Park or Tilted. A small tip that I recommend is to try and find a landing spot that you can master. Land at a spot every game and figure out a looting pattern that you can become comfortable with. If you're always landing at different spots, it puts you at a bigger disadvantage, and having a spot that you have mastered puts you at an advantage during early game fights, because if you're contested, you know all of the loot spawns and all of the lines of sight.
So you want to like pick like an unnamed location, maybe even somewhere on the outskirts of the map, just to kind of play it safe. You don't want to take a 50-50 fight off spawn and stuff, right?
That's what I would prefer. I mean, you could land places like that are named, but just make sure you're comfortable with it and that you can do it consistently with not dying multiple times and losing a lot of your points.
All right, so another question that a lot of people ask is like the best way to actually have successful endgame rotations. So what's your secret to successful endgame rotations?
During the endgame, I would say try and rotate to the next zone as early as possible, and then box up and look back towards the people that are rotating in. Normally, they'll be on the edge of the storm as it's moving towards you, and if you keep laying down shots into them, it can lead to easy kills. And if you're playing as a duo, make sure that you're always on the same page. Do everything as a team, and make sure you're always talking. You're not always going to play great and win, but as long as you're giving it your best and you're always working together, that's really all you can ask for.
All right, man. Well, it was definitely cool having you on. I'm sure this is going to help out a lot of people. Definitely get to Champion League if they haven't already, and definitely get some more points in arena mode overall. Seriously, keep up the good work, dude. You're killing it in the competitive scene, and I'm sure that you'll definitely go places in the future. I'll be saying more than $900 earned, but definitely it was cool having you, dude.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Once again, big shout out to Carter's for collaborating with me on this video. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel down in the description below. Now we're going to move into some final important tips of my very own to becoming a more successful arena player. My first tip for you guys is practicing the length of arena fights. Since the players you will run into in arena are the same skill level as you, fights will last longer than normal public match fights. If I had to estimate, I would say a good majority of the fights that you guys get into, including myself in public matches, last anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. In competitive Fortnite, fights that you get into may last as long as 2 minutes to 5 minutes depending on the scenario and how good your enemies are. Being patient and choosing the best options in these fights will reward you with consistent success. My second tip for you guys is having your guns ready. In competitive Fortnite, there's going to be multiple times where you're going to be using natural cover such as buildings, mountains, and hills for cover rather than just building for cover. You always want to be consistently doing damage to your enemies, and with this being said, as soon as you pull your build menu out, you go from playing offensively to defensively very quickly. You can see in the gameplays I'm showing on screen, I limit the use of my building to only if I need it. You don't always need to use building for advantages over your enemies, and instead I use my building primarily for defensive purposes and of course for building solid bases to shoot from. My third tip for you guys is watch a lot of competitive Fortnite. What this will do for you is give you guys extra insight and instincts purely based off of plays that you see, as well as just being able to study the game of competitive Fortnite more. Competitive Fortnite and public matches are two completely different games to play, and it will definitely take some adjusting to do. I hope this video helps you guys out, and if it did, drop a comment down below and tell me about it. Use my code YTRebus in the item shop, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.